So I figure I'll do one. It's a little late, but I'm going to make it quick. It won't be long. Um, I do want to do study on the Book of Solomon a little bit more, but I want to study it myself for a bit and read some things because there's some things that I read and I'm like, wow, it reminds me of other things that I read in other chapters, and I went to a whole discussion about how the Book of Solomon has been misinterpreted by many churches and people, and they have you thinking it's a book about sex and marriage and romance between two married couples. But although it may come off that way, when you really read it, you realize it's not about two human beings being married and having sex or anything like that. It's about God's love for his church and connection with his people. And a lot of people say it's really about Jesus, the connection between Jesus and his church, his people, which I believe that to be true because he is God, and it got me thinking when I read about the vineyard in the book of Isaiah. It started reminding me about the book of Solomon every time I read Isaiah, the Isaiah chapter 5. So let me read something in the Song of Solomon. This is chapter 8, right? And we go down to line 11. It says, Solomon had a vineyard at Baal Haman. He let out the vineyard unto keepers. Every one for the fruit thereof was to bring 1,000 pieces of silver. My vineyard, which is mine, is before me. Thou, O Solomon, must have 1,000, and those that keep the fruit thereof 200. Thou that dwellest in the gardens, the companions hearken to thy voice. Cause me to hear it. Make haste, my beloved, and be thou like to a roe or to a young hart upon the mountain of spices. So people start automatically, ooh, this is really seductive, because there's other parts in here when you read it, it sounds a little sensual or maybe erotic to some people, but when you read it more and more, you start realizing it's not about that. It's metaphorically representing God and his love and connection with the church and people. But this is why when I went to the book of Isaiah, why I thought of the vineyard, and I said, wait, they're speaking about it again. I'm getting so heated. Right. And I'm like, I really believe this is all connected to the book of Solomon about this whole vineyard, and the book of Solomon talking about the vineyard and talking about this connection with the church. I'm getting hot in here. I'm going to put the AC on. I'm going to put the AC on real quick. I don't know. I'm just getting hot. I'm going to put this on real quick. Oh. Just put it on low real quick. I'm getting a little hot. Oh boy. Oh. So here we go. Chapter 5. Now that was the Song of Solomon. Now look, Isaiah chapter 5. Why I say I'm starting to wonder if this is like connected to the metaphors that is in Book of Solomon, right? Song of Solomon's. Isaiah chapter 5. Now will I sing to my well-beloved, a song of my beloved touching his vineyard. My well-beloved had a vineyard and a very fruitful hill. And he fenced it and gathered out the stones thereof and planted it with the choicest vine and built a tower in the midst of it and also made a winepress therein. And he looked that it should bring forth grapes, and it brought forth wild grapes. And now, O inhabitants of Jerusalem and men of Judah, judge, I pray you, betwixt me and my vineyard. What could have been done more to my vineyard that I have not done in it? Wherefore, when I looked that it should bring forth grapes, brought it forth wild grapes. And now go to And now go to, I will tell you what I will do to my vineyard. I will take away the hedge thereof, and it shall be eaten up, and break down the wall thereof, and it shall be trodden down. And I will lay it waste. It shall not be pruned nor digged, but there shall come up briars and thorns. I will also command the clouds that they rain no rain upon it. For the vineyard of the Lord of hosts, here we go, line 7. For the vineyard of the Lord of hosts is the house of Israel, and the men of Judah his pleasant plant. And he looked for judgment, but behold oppression, for righteousness, but behold a cry. Woe unto them that join house to house, that lay field to field, till there be no place, that they may be placed alone in the midst of the earth. In my ears, said the Lord of hosts, of a truth many houses shall be desolate, even great and fair without inhabitant. Yeah, 10 acres of vineyard shall yield one bath, and the seed of an homer shall yield an ephah. And I'm still trying to figure out what that meant metaphorically, but it's just amazing. And I'll go on. Line 11 says, woe unto them that rise up early in the morning, that they may follow strong drink, that continue until night, till wine inflame them. Now, when I read that, I see metaphorically he's not talking about just drinking some wine. Obviously, we know that's not a sin. But we see metaphorically, when I read that, it's almost like he's talking about somebody who is so in tuned with sin and drunk in sin. You ever get drunk so much you're not aware of anything? They're so deep into their sins. They're like drunk people, like drunk in their sins and not aware of anything they're engaging in. Because at that time, Israel was worshiping, again, false gods, cheating on God, cheating on him with other false gods, the nations of the false gods, and sacrificing their children to false gods by burning them in fire, making them walk through fire in the Old Testament. So they were so far away from God, they were blind, pretty much, blinded by their sin and desires in their hearts, their lusts in their hearts, that they did not see. They were drunk in their sin, blind. Just like when you're drunk and you're blind about your surroundings, you're not aware of. That's how the house of Israel was, the people. And that's when I read that, that's what I believe it's saying. I don't believe it's talking about real wine. It's very metaphoric. Same thing in the book of Solomon. You read it, it's very metaphoric. And it's not about a man and a woman as people try to make it seem like. No, it's about the connection between God and his church. And when I read about the vineyard, it says the vineyard is the house of Israel. And that's why I believe that the vineyard in the book of Solomon is also the house of Israel. I believe that every time he mentions the word vineyard, he's obviously talking about his people, those who are his. I've never seen or thought that the vineyard meant anything else. It always meant his people, you know, his kingdom, his people that are the church, you know, his kingdom. His kingdom is filled with who? His people, those that are his. And that's what I believe when I study more and more. That's what's being revealed to me. Now, you know, I pray, you know, I tell people anything that you hear, you always pray on it, you know, read it for yourself. I'm just sharing what I'm studying and why I say what I say, why I believe that to be. Because right here it says the vineyard on line 7, for the vineyard of the Lord of hosts is the house of Israel. So then it goes down again on line 12, and the harp of the violet, the harp and the viol, the tabret and pipe and wine are in their feasts, right? Now we know it's not a sin to play music, but they obviously are trying to speak of something deeper, right? but they regard not the work of the Lord. So I'm going to read this again, line 12. And the harp and the violin, the tabret and pipe and wine are in their feasts, but they regard not the work of the Lord, neither consider the operation of his hands. What do I see in that? People who are in what? Unbelief. People who lack faith, who don't regard the Lord, don't consider the operation of his hands. Everything is about their lusts and desires of this world. And I believe when it mentions the harp and the violin, the instruments and the wine are in their feasts, the wine represents people who are blind and drunk in their sins and not aware of what they are in for. The harp and violin and the tabret pipe are the distractions and the instruments, and not the instruments of sin, but like their distractions and celebrations of sin and a life that is filled with the things of this world, the desires of this world, and their heart is not set on God. And so that's what I believe, because as soon as we read that, but they regard not the work of the Lord, neither consider the operation of his hands, they make it clear what this whole sentence is about right there in the nutshell. They're over here celebrating. Their hearts is set on sin, the things of this world. Heck, probably set on their pride and set on the things but they're not thinking about God. They're over here celebrating their accomplishments and so filled with pride, they don't give God credit for anything. God is the one that created all things and given us everything. Yet we want to celebrate and not acknowledge God. Then we go down to 13. Therefore, my people are gone into captivity because knowledge, and their honorable men are famished, and their multitude dried up with thirst. Therefore, hell hath enlarged herself and opened her mouth without measure. And their glory and their multitude and their pomp, and he that rejoiceth shall descend into it. And the mean man shall be brought down, and the mighty man shall be humbled, and the eyes of the lofty shall be humbled. But the Lord of hosts shall be exalted in judgment, and God that is holy shall be sanctified in righteousness. Then shall the lambs feed after their manner, and the waste places of the fat ones shall strangers eat. Woe unto them that draw iniquity with cords of vanity and sin, as it were with a cart rope. That say, let him make speed and hasten his work, that we may see it. And let the counsel of the Holy One of Israel draw nigh and come, that we may know it. Woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Woe unto them that are wise in their own eyes and prudent in their own sight. Woe unto them that are mighty to drink wine and men of strength to mingle strong drink, which justify the wicked for reward and take away the righteousness of the righteous from him. Therefore, as the fire devours and the flame consumeth the chaff, so their root shall be rottenness, and their blossom shall go up as dust, because they have cast away the law of the Lord of hosts and despised the word of the Holy One of Israel. Therefore is the anger of the Lord kindled against his people, and he hath stretched forth his hand against them, and hath smitten them. And the hills did tremble, and their carcasses were torn in the midst of the streets. For all of this, his anger is not turned away, but his hand is stretched out still. And he will lift up an ensign to the nations from far, and will hiss unto them from the end of the earth. And behold, they shall come with speed swiftly. None shall be weary, nor stumble amongst them. None shall slumber nor sleep. Neither shall the girdle of their loins be loosed, nor the latchet of their shoes be broken. Whose arrows are sharp, and all their bows bent. Their horses' hoofs shall be counted like flint, and their wheels like a whirlwind. Their roaring shall be like a lion. They shall roar like young lions. Yeah, They shall raw and lay hold of the prey, shall carry it away safe, and none shall deliver it. And in that day they shall raw against them, like the rawing of the sea. And if one look unto the land, behold darkness and sorrow, and the light is darkened in the heavens thereof. And see, I'm reading this, and it's like you could start seeing the metaphors. It's very, very deeply metaphoric. And, you know, and as you read it, you start realizing this is going more into it. We obviously understand that, okay, Israel has definitely felt short of God, just like all of us have. They have sinned. They have cheated on God. They've turned away from him. They didn't acknowledge him. They kept worshiping these false gods. And then we know that they were taken captive by the Babylonians and the Chaldees. And in the book of Isaiah, it talks about the Lord giving a sign, and that the sign was a child would be born of a virgin, which is Jesus. His name will be Emmanuel. And he's going to purge the sins of the people. And so that ends up happening years later. Jesus comes like thousands of years later. He comes and he dies on the cross for the sins of mankind. But in here, there's so much metaphors. And when you read it, you start realizing it's more than what you're reading. It's representing something much more deeper and spiritual. Just like I read about the wine part. You think it's about wine? No, it's definitely bigger than that. I use this wine metaphorically because a strong drink, because when people drink strongly and they get drunk, they're not aware and they're blind of their surroundings. It's the same with people who are lost in their sins, lost in their desires, or we could say their lusts in their hearts. The things of this world, they're so lost in their riches or the things of this world, the women, the money, the gold, you know, their pride, they're lost in their pride. Lost in their desires for everything that's of the flesh. Lost in their ego and pride that they think they're on top of the world. They're so consumed, there you go, so consumed with the things of this world that they forget God. They're in unbelief. They don't even seek God. They take all the credit of anything. They never give thanks to God. Everything is about this world. They're so blind in drunkenness, spiritually drunk. And so I start reading that and I'm like, okay, so I see that a lot of this is all very metaphoric, explaining something a lot much deeper spiritually. Just like it talks about here, woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, right? And then it says that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. And he goes into explaining that in a more, you know, and explains it in a deeper way when he states about evil for good and good for evil. Woe unto them that are wise in their own eyes, the proud, the prideful, right? And prudent in their own sight. Which justify the wicked for reward and take away the righteousness of the righteous from him. But that's why I say that I believe the vineyard of the Lord, because he says it's the house of Israel, is linked to the book of Solomon. I believe Solomon, when he goes and says that in there, that go on there, I want to go back onto line that line on line 12 where it says chapter 8, line 12 in the book of Solomon, my vineyard, which is mine, is before me. And I believe that's the Lord saying that my vineyard, which is mine, is before me. And if you read the whole book of Solomon, it's deep. I'm still trying to understand some things that's in there. Oh, my phone is on 5%. But I definitely know, as I'm reading it, that this is definitely about no man and woman. Okay, I'll tell you that right now. It's about God and his love for this church. But, there's so much in there. It's very metaphoric, and I would like to study it a lot deeper and maybe share some things that I've learned or I believe on some of the scriptures. But definitely the vineyard. I had to share that because when I read Isaiah chapter 5, the book of Solomon came to my mind right away when I read about the vineyard. I said, oh, that sounds, and he's talking about my well-beloved, and that sounds just the way it sounds like in here in the book of Solomon when he talks about his well-beloved, right? When you go into here. The voice of my beloved, behold, he cometh leaping upon the mountains, skipping upon the hills. My beloved is like a roe or a young hart. Behold, he standeth behind our wall. He looketh forth at the window, showing himself through the lattice. My beloved spake and said unto me, rise up, my love, my fair one, and come away. Oh. And then line 14 says, oh, my dove that are in the cleft of the rocks, in the secret places of the stairs, let me see thy countenance. Let me hear thy voice. For sweet is thy voice, and thy countenance is comely. I believe at that point, that's the church, the people saying that to God, because it says in the secret places of the stairs. And they say secret places most of the time is talking about the heavenlies. When I read a lot about the secret places, metaphorically, or they a lot of times are talking about the heavens, the secret places, the unseen, the secret places from above. Let me see thy countenance. Let me hear thy voice, for sweet is thy voice, and thy countenance is comely. Take us the foxes, the little foxes that spoil the vines, for our vines have tender grapes. My beloved is mine, and I am his. He feedeth among the lilies. Until the day break and the shadows flee away, turn, my beloved, and be thou like a roe or a young hart upon the mountains of Bether. And I wonder at that part where he says, turn, my beloved, and be thou like the roe. Is that the church saying that, singing that to the Lord, or is that the Lord saying that to his church? So that's what I wanted to find out more. But I obviously see that the vineyard is the people, and that, it says, my beloved is mine and I am his. He feedeth among the lilies. So, and that's why when I read that part in the book of Isaiah, chapter 5, my beloved, I sing a song to my beloved. I say, wait, this is starting to bring back the Song of Solomon now. And about the vineyard and how it's connected to the church, the people, I go to chapter 5. Now will I sing to my well-beloved, a song of my beloved touching his vineyard. My well-beloved have the vineyard and a very fruitful hill. And then they explain that the vineyard of the Lord of hosts is the house of Israel. So that's exactly what I meant by earlier when I was stating how like a lot of these people try to turn things around in the Bible and make it seem like it's about worldly, fleshly things. And it's like, that's not what the Song of Solomon is about. It's not about sex in the bedroom with your husband and wife. Right? It's talking about the vineyard, God and his church. We can see that is obviously you talk about a woman and a man there. And it's very talking about in the secret places. What human beings in secret places? No human beings there. So if it was a wife and man, or a regular husband, man and woman, why would they be in secret places? Now some people may turn that around. Oh, it's a secret place, like she's in a room waiting for her man to come in. No, that's not what it's talking about. When we read the Bible, a lot of times they say the secret places. That I noticed that they're talking about higher places, spiritual places, places unseen, or the heavenlies, or something. Something's very out of this world. And when we read the book of Isaiah, he says, my well-beloved, he touches his vineyard. And sounds very similar to the Song of Solomon, and they says that the vineyard is the Israelites, the nation of Israel. Doesn't say, oh, is a woman and a man, so it's like, why would God just make one book about sex and to be like, oh yeah, just talking about husband and wife? That's not relevant to our purpose in God, nor to our salvation. The book is not about people and how we can please a man and woman. It's about our relationship with God. And when you read the book of Solomon, you start realizing it's about the Lord. Now I'm going to read some more things that makes me say why, like why I say why I say that, why I believe that be so, and just the deception from these churches. let me go over to Song of Solomon. I want to read something, how he compares his beloved, right? To who he compares his beloved to. And it ain't no woman or a man with the breast and, talking about, oh, she's beautiful or he's good looking, handsome. No, he says on here, my beloved. I just want to read it. Okay. So this is chapter 1. It says online, if thou know not, O thou fairest among women, go thy way forth by the footsteps of the flock and feed thy kids beside the shepherd's tents. I've compared you, O my love, to a company of horses and Pharaoh's chariots. Thy cheeks are comely with rows of jewels, thy neck with chains of gold. We will make you borders of gold with studs of silver. While the king sits at his table, my spikenard sendeth forth the smell thereof. A bundle of myrrh is my well-beloved unto me. He shall lie all night between my breasts. My beloved is unto me as a cluster of camphire in the vineyards of Engedi. Behold, thou art fair, my love. Behold, thou art fair. Thou hast dove's eyes. Behold, thou art fair, my beloved. Yea, pleasant. Also our bed is green. The beams of our house are cedar, and our rafters are fir. I want to read some more. Oh, behold his bed, which is Solomon's, right? This is where I want to read at. Oh, here it goes on line 5. This is chapter 3, Song of Solomon, right? I charge you, O you daughters of Jerusalem, by the roes and by the hens of the field, that ye stir not up, nor wake my love till he please. Who is this that cometh out of the wilderness like pillars of smoke? Perfume with myrrh and frankincense, with all powders of the merchant. Behold his bed, which is Solomon's, 80 valiant men are about it, of the valiant of Israel. That's how I know that this is not talking about a bedroom between man and woman having sex. It says, behold his bed, speaking metaphorically, which is Solomon's. 80 valiant men are about it, of the valiant of Israel. So does that sound like we're talking about a husband and wife having sex in a bed with 300 men in the bed? Like, no, this is metaphorically speaking. It says, behold his bed, which is Solomon's. 80 valiant men are about it, of the valiant of Israel. They all hold swords, being expert in war. Every man hath his sword upon his thigh, because of fear in the night. King Solomon made himself a chariot of wood of Lebanon. He made the pillars thereof of silver, the bottom thereof of gold, the covering of it of purple, the midst thereof being paved with love for the daughters of Jerusalem. Let me see if there's any other ones here. Oh, here's line 2 on chapter 4. Thy teeth are like a flock of sheep that are even shorn, which came up from the washing, whereof every one bare twins, and none is barren among them. It's amazing. Line 4, thy neck is like the tower of David, builded for an armory, whereon there hang 1,000 bucklers, all shields of mighty men. Thy 2 breasts are like 2 young roes that are twins, which feed among the lilies until the day break and the shadows flee away. I will get me to the mountains of myrrh and to the hill of frankincense. Thou art all fair, my love. There is no spot in thee. And I believe he's talking about God right there, because God doesn't have a spot in him. He's sinless. Then it says on line 10, how fair is thy love, my sister, my spouse? How much better is thy love than wine, and the smell of thine ointments than all spices? Thy lips, O my spouse, drop as the honeycomb. Honey and milk are under thy tongue, and the smell of thy garments is like the smell of Lebanon. I want to see if there's any other ones that tells me, like, yeah, it's amazing. You read this and you're like, okay, like you start realizing that you see that it's very metaphoric, it's bigger, and it's very spiritual and very intimate, and it's about God and his people, as you can see. Now, do we understand it all in its entirety? No, because this is the word of God, okay? This is a spiritual book, and there's a lot to learn. Every time you go back and read it, you learn something new. But I can definitely tell you that I believe wholeheartedly that the vineyard altogether is just about Israel, his kingdom, his people. When I read Isaiah and it talks about my well-beloved, it touches his vineyard. Okay. Now, of course, you hear in the Song of Solomon, everyone wants to make it seem sexual. And it's like, no, obviously he's talking about this vineyard, his people, Israel. And then when you read Solomon, you see, he says, my vineyard, which is mine, is before me. We obviously see he's talking about Israel, his people, his kingdom, and, his kingdom, his people, those who serve him. The vineyard is Israel, his people. So I don't think he's talking about anything about my vineyard, and trying to, in a sense of trying to be sexual and be fertile or something. It's not like that. Oh boy, but I'm just wondering why I say what I say and why I believe this, and as I'm reading it more and more. And so it's just something that I share. I pray on it to God and ask for understanding of his word, but it's very interesting. And again, on here, on line 3, on chapter, 6, on line 3, I am my beloved's, and my beloved is mine. He feedeth among the lilies. And line 2 says, my beloved is gone down into his garden, to the beds of spices, to feed in the gardens and to gather lilies. And of course, somebody will turn that into something sexual. And while it's sensual and very intimate, it's meant to really represent God and his people, his deep love for his church, his people, our connection, our intimacy. So just wanted to read this, jotting out some scriptures that is very eye-opening, is very touching, and share it and, look into it. It's very, very interesting. The word of God is great. But I'm going to get off here because it is getting late, and I got to get to bed because I got work in the morning, and I promised I was going to do a study and share what I was talking about earlier on my earlier stream. So take care. Good night, everybody. Time for me to go to bed. As you can see, I have my hair all set. I washed it and it's all set to go for tomorrow. I'll just take it out of the bobby pins out. Take care. God bless everybody, and bye-bye.